Mock Draft 2.0 here on Take Command. Logan Paulson there, Craig Hoffman here. Commanders on the board at 29 as we pick up here, Logan, and ring. Haven't done that in a while. Trade phones ringing off the hook. We got currently 3 trade offers thrown our way in the Pro Football Network trade simulator. So we have pick 29, pick 245 on the board for Washington in exchange for Tennessee's pick 35 and 103. Cleveland is offering a 2-for-1 swap. Pick 33, first pick of the second round, and pick 179 for pick 29. And then, this one's juicy. Pick 29, pick 128 from Washington. So that's the 4th rounder and this pick. For pick 55-86, a second and a third next year from the LA Chargers.
That is a very juicy proposition, but you are kind of getting pushed down pretty far there. And I think when you're trying to accrue draft capital, like this is obviously the most appetizing of the trades, at least it seems like to me.
But you get back to a full complement of 7 picks next year, and you get back to this year you're just moving up from 128 to 86. Although you are now picking twice in the final final 10 picks of the second round this year, because you go all the way down to 55.
Yeah, and so this is an interesting kind of proposition because I think Colston Loveland is special, right? I think Mike Green is special. I think Kenneth Green, I don't know if he's the right fit here. I think athletically he's special at this spot. Now, when you're thinking long-term team building, however, is this someone that can you go to the offense real quick while I'm talking here, Craig? Thanks.
Sure.
Is the thing that I come back to is you got to think about building the team long-term, and getting all of that draft capital back for next year, I think is insanely valuable also. So even though you're picking at 55, which is very, very low, I don't know. It just seems like there's so much value there for the following season in terms of recouping draft assets. That I don't know if you can pass that up. That's 4 picks, right? For really kind of just a swap of 2. I don't know. And so that's something I would look at there. Just kind of say, is one player worth all of that? And the answer is I have no idea. I don't know if I feel great about it. This one by Tennessee feels a little bit more appetizing to me because it's you trade down to the 35th pick. There's still going to be a good football player there. Yeah. And you get pick 103, so you're kind of trading back in. Is that into the 3rd round?
That is the first pick, I believe, of the 4th round.
Which I think is probably pretty good value. So this one's, to me, probably a little bit more interesting.
I would say the Cleveland offer to me is not that interesting. You go back 4 picks and you pick up just late 4th, early 5th rounder at 179. Actually, that's going to be a 5th. I'm not that interested in that. The Chargers one is mega interesting. I just wish, but it's also then could you maybe trade up again? Could you package 55 and one of your 7ths to go up in the 40s? This is where I don't think we're gonna do that for today. We're not gonna be pausing the draft and making trades, although I guess we could. But this amount of flexibility is good. Here's what I'm also curious about, though. Could we counter this Tennessee offer? And could we get their 3rd? I'm more interested in their 3rd next year than I am this pick 103.
Oh, really?
Yes, why is that? Because they're going to be bad again. And if that's the case, and typically future picks are seen as less valuable in the formula than current picks, but we need picks next year too. We've only got 5 picks next year right now.
Yeah, so I'd probably go, honestly, based on this and based on the draft board as it currently stands, I'd probably go with the Chargers offer at this point. It's just so much draft capital to move. I mean, you can counter offer this Tennessee thing, but that's pretty tremendous.
You just want to go with the so you would like 20. So if we're giving 29 and 245, which is our last 7th, you'd prefer the Chargers offer to 35, so we stay up fairly high. At that point, we're still getting probably either Loveland, Igbuka, Burden, Hampton, Green. We're getting one of those guys.
Yeah.
And then their third next year, which is not as fun for our little show today because we're not going to do a 2026
So the
mock.
crazy thing is with Tennessee, you get the second, or with the Chargers, you get the second and the third next year, right? So talk about trade
That's
assets
true.
that are very high in the kind of the pantheon of draft value.
But are the Chargers going to be too good that those are like, what's more valuable?
So I think what Adam Peters has shown, honestly, is that like just having the pieces is important because it lets you make moves, right? And I think like that's, again, obviously, I think what the draft simulator here is kind of alluding to is that Jim Harbaugh would want Colston Loveland, right? And would give a lot to get him in the system, get him in the program there in LA. So again, a second wherever it is, a third wherever it is valuable in the way that Adam Peters has been using draft capital. And again, that's valuable if you pick it there, and it's value if you trade for somebody, right? So I would say that's probably the move here. And I know 55 is a long way to move and not super exciting because you're kind of kicking down players. But I also look at that other, I forget what the other pick was. You move up to 105. I think that's with a seventh round pick,
86.
Yeah.
In this,
so and again, like when I look at this draft, I say probably between, what is it, 35 and the start of the fourth round, the middle of the fourth round. That's where you're going to get a lot of really good football players, and you're giving yourself another bite at the apple here for a 128, like your sixth round pick. Was that right, or your fifth round pick?
I think that's 4. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so I think I actually don't hate this. I'd probably go ahead and hit that if I don't know. How do you feel about it?
No, I feel good about that too. That also, frankly, for our purposes, this is reading the stage directions a little bit, but that allows us to make 3 picks. So we're gonna do it. But I also genuinely think like unless you love someone, and also you can trade back up again. If all of a sudden, let's say Igbuka starts falling and he's out there at 38, and you're like, well, shoot, we didn't expect that. Let's go up and get him because now you got some extra picks. Like let's just take that 86 or maybe our 90, whatever that is. Or I guess they don't have that one anymore because they traded it. So I guess we still only make 2 picks here. But or no, we have 61. So like there are ways that you can maneuver here. So we're gonna accept that deal, and then we're gonna kind of keep an eye on this here. So Igbuka starts falling. Oh, there he goes. Marion Hampton still top player available. Let's pause this at 40. Oh, so okay. Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan. Is there a chance they would trade back up for one of those guys? Yes. If this is currently where we're at, and the Bears are on the clock at 41, are you making calls about Marion Hampton, or is hey, it's a running back in a running back heavy draft? And is there anyone else that is like go full availability here? Is there anybody else that's intriguing you at this point that might be worth trading up for?
At the moment, no. I think at this point I would just let the draft come to me because again, I think there are good football players. Like Azareye'h Thomas is the 55th player on the board. Alec Alamanor from Stanford, the wide receiver, still on the board.
He's going late 1 in some mocks.
Yeah, and again, like it depends on how you have these guys rated, but like there are good football players here. Like Marcus Bowe is on this list, right? Darren Porter's on this list. Like Quentin Junkins is on this list. Like there's good football players here. So unless there's someone that I'm dying to get, like I said, I actually believe that, after kind of that 35 to whatever, the start of the fourth round, there's good football players. So I think when we're picking at 55 or when the Commanders are picking at 55 in this trade, you're going to feel really good about who's ever there. And I would probably just let it fall, like quite honestly, because again, like there are good football players that can help your team and get you better. So I'd probably just let it ride, I think, at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, Logan, remember in this mock draft,
we are the Commanders.
Yeah, there's no need to separate between the Commanders and us. We are the Commanders. What?
Thanks, Doug.
All right, continuing on. So I hit, where was the pause button? The resume draft. There we go. There goes Jaden Higgins, Travion Henderson. There goes Amarion Hampton to the Cowboys. Ugh. Your guy Schlesinger from UCLA comes off the board to the Colts. And here we go, coming up at 55. So, that's intriguing. We're not just going to trade down a million times, but I'm not going to lie. I'd be kind of enticed to get the Giants third rounder next year because I don't think they're going to be any good.
No, yeah, I'm with it. But yeah,
but
so
we're gonna make a pick here.
Yeah, a couple of names that came off the board. Obviously, Jackson Dart was really interesting. Landon Jackson came off. Ariante Ursary came off. Carson Schlesinger, the linebacker, came off. Marion Hampton came off. Trayvon Henderson, I know a lot of fans have kind of targeted him. Like, that would be a piece. Maybe I haven't done my full running back evaluations yet, but like that would be a piece that I think would be interesting because he's so explosive. But again, we're here, we're picking, and I think there are some really good players like Jonah. I can't even say his last name. Jonah S. From Arizona, the guard.
Savanaia. Is that what we're going to go with right now?
Savanaia.
No, I'm not going to say it again. And when Dane drops the beast and it's got the pronunciations, I will say it then.
Yeah, like I think he is going to be an excellent guard. Like the way he moves, the way he uncoils from his hips, like he played tackle at Arizona. Like I think that would be an excellent upgrade on the offensive line. And you don't have to make that pick again because you brought Laramie in. You're going to move some people around the front. But when I look at him, his wide body, he's got good length. He's got 34-inch arms. He's 335 pounds, something like that, and he ran a 4.9. So
Ooh.
he's got some athletic juice to him. And so the fact that he's here, I would definitely kick the tires on that. Azarie Thomas, talk about a big physical man corner from Florida State who was very competitive at the Senior Bowl. Looked a little bit stiff in drill work at the combine, but man, is he a dog competitor. I think he had 65 or 68 tackles last year, and he tackles like a safety. Like he's a competitive son of a gun, right? Trey Amos, I don't like on film, I don't get the competitive vibe from him, but he moves well, tracks the football well, has some zone man flexibility. And then you look at Alec Alamanor from Stanford. Like if you wanted a perimeter wide receiver, an X that had some upside opposite Terry, like that's an excellent pick. Maxwell Harrison, the guy that ran the 4.28 at the combine, he is a fun football player to watch. He's a little undersized, but man, can he play some ball now? You know what I mean? Like,
and for a defense that needs some speed, there's the fastest guy in the draft.
Yeah, and I think he's got to develop as a man covered player, but when he's in zone, he's very competent. He understands how to bait and kind of encourage certain throws from the quarterback. He's a willing tackler, had a shoulder injury last year. So again, that slight frame, I don't know how much you want to bet on that. But like I said, like to me, there's Isaiah Bond here, the speedster from Texas. Like he's going to roll, man. On film, he absolutely flies off the tape. Quentin Junkins, man. Like I actually think his film at points is better than Henderson's. And for whatever reason, they're not getting the same love. Like they basically tested exactly the same. So Darren Porter, like Darius Alexander, like I have almost a borderline first round grade on Darius Alexander, right? So Jalen Knoll is an absolute dog competitor receiver for my point is like we're okay.
My point is we're taking the Giants trade. We're going back to 65. Give us more. No,
but if I had to pick here, gosh, man, getting that guard here feels really good to me. Feels really good, but I also love the corner. And so if you,
and it's
I don't know, I'm going to turn to you.
Yeah.
And say,
so
like, what do you think?
This is where it gets fun, right? Because you've traded back, you've got 55 and 61. And so in some level, you're saying, all right, we got two guys we like. Which one do we think is most available at 61? Well, the other thing that I would say, based off of what you just talked about, is if we're choosing between a guard and a corner, the guard's the guard. He's the only one that's here right now that, unless you like Embo from Purdue as well.
I do like him, but
if you think he's on a different tier,
I think stylistically they're different players. Like Sanavaia has like a big kind of mauling presence to him, and Embo has some of maybe the best feet for any offensive lineman in the entire draft. So like it's just different, you know. And I think he probably, I don't know. Some people have him playing center. To me, I worry about his size. Like there's a little bit of a concern there because he's like 299 pounds. He's a little bit like thinner for an offensive lineman, but man, his footwork is tremendous. So I don't know, maybe, and just can we go to edge real quick? Because there's Prince Yellen is right here too. He's got some pass rush juice also, but if there's anybody else that maybe
what I was going to say is if we just say that like it's Jonah or bust at the guard position and there's three corners we like, I'm taking the guard, and then we'll take whichever corner is top of our list at 61 in 5 picks from now. At edge, this is what you got.
Yeah, and I honestly think like if he's on the board here at 55, I'd probably take the guard. I know that's not the sexiest pick, but I think about the athletic floor that you get to there. You got, Brandon Coleman moving to one of those spots, and all of a sudden you got this young kind of developmental guy who played well at Arizona. You know what I mean? He played well at Arizona, and it is a position switch, but man, I look at that and he kind of fits the mold. He's got great length for his size. And they look at Brandon Coleman, what they did last year. And so I don't know because of the trade if you want to waste that resource or expend that resource on a guard. But it seems like it would be a really just put that offensive line in a tremendous position to be dominant for the next 4 or 5 years, especially while Jaden's on his rookie deal.
Yeah, I just feel like I do struggle with that a little bit in terms of spending on a guard with where they're at right now. Like, I don't think a guard, like, is a guard something I would like to pick up in this draft for sure. And it sounds like Coleman's going to play right tackle, so it is still a bit of a mystery of exactly what they're going to do at guard. They've obviously brought in a couple of options here, but if you think, like, if you believe in him, if Bobby Johnson's on the standing on the table and is like, give me this guy, like he's perfect for us, and Cliff is like, he's perfect for us, I have no problem with it, especially considering I feel good about getting one of Thomas, Ao Manor, Hairston at Bond at, or one of the running backs, even Judkins at 61 and a couple of picks. If he's the outlier, let's take the outlier, and then we'll address the other stuff. However, I will say, I probably at that point I'm like, okay, I hope it's not Ao Manor, because we need some defensive players.
Yeah, no, I think there will be a defensive player. I think because Azaria Thomas and Maxwell Harrison and Princely Umanyalan are all on the board here, and then even TJ Sanders, Darius Alexander would be great. Again, I don't know how much defensive tackle help you need, but I feel good about the board at the moment. I think I'd probably, again, this is just my opinion, but Jonah to me feels like the guy that has the best athletic upside value here and is going to be a safe pick. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
All right, hit and draft. There we go. We got our guy. We got our tackle, our guard. And there goes Thomas. There goes Hairston. Oh, that hurts.
Dagger.
That hurts. Okay, we got a couple of trade offers at 61. We can go back to 122 and pick up Denver second next year. I'm not that interested in that. Giants still want to play ball. This I would do probably. 61 dropping down to 65 for 105. And we give up pick 205. So it's a 2 for 2. But I would probably do that.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
Okay, let's answer the trade phone on the Giants. They really want to get up and get somebody. Oh, they want Jalen Milroe. That's why. All right. And then so now we're on the board again at 65. Again, we could do the trade of Palooza all day. Go down 2 spots, pick up Seattle's 4th next year. Go down 4 spots, pick up New England's 4th. But we're not going to play those games. We're just going to take a player here. I think now you're looking at, okay, who's available on defense, which is hard because Ao Manor is probably the best player on the board. He's a guy that, again, is getting mocked in the 4th or in the 1st, and now we're getting him at the top of the 3rd potentially. Isaiah Bond, Judkins, but you've also got guys like Darian Porter, who I know you're really high on and think he's got that Commander's tag. Got Alexander.
Scroll down here a little bit. There's a guy on here that I wanted to talk about real quick. So Collins from Texas, I think he's up a little. Sorry, we're doing the dance here.
There you go, Alfred Collins. Tell us about old Alfred.
I mean, he is one of the freakier human beings I've seen in the draft this year. He's 6'5", almost 6'6". He's I think he weighed in at 332 pounds. He's got 30, I think, I don't remember, 35 and a half inch arms. He had like one of the bigger wingspan. He's a huge man, and he is incredibly disruptive on the defensive line. He does gas out a little bit, and his conditioning needs some work. But he's a disruptive special football player. I think that's the other thing, too, in this draft class that is kind of coming to light for me in this draft here is that, like, there's a ton of defensive tackle. And while defensive end is kind of purported to be deep, I do think there is a kind of a drop-off in tier. Obviously, what's his name's on here? I just saw his name. Kyle Kennard, who had one of the faster kind of more explosive measurements at the combine. I know they talked with him at some point because Dan mentioned in an interview that he did. So has some pass rush upside, but to me doesn't feel quite as disruptive as like an Alfred Collins or, obviously the slot receiver Xavier Restrepo. Can you scroll back up real quick, Craig?
Sure.
Sorry.
You still got Darius Alexander, who's your guy. You said you have a borderline first-round grade on his defensive tackle. He's
an absolute maniac. He's a big, strong, kind of long-armed dude that kind of wins with power. He's older prospect, 26 years old, so I don't know how you feel about that kind of as like a developmental piece. But Darren Porter, again, in terms of like a long kind of athletic freak, the film's not always there for him, but like he's one of one in terms of athletic profile in this draft. So to me, it's like, And also, I wouldn't hate. This is the third round. I wouldn't hate drafting Quinn Junkins at this point either. So the thing I'm a little bit disappointed about is, when we traded out of that spot or when we took the guard, is I really like Azareye'h Thomas, and so maybe we should have flipped those, gone Azareye'h Thomas, and then waited for something here, because I don't think there's a strong edge here, and I don't know. Can you go to corners real quick? Let's just look at the corner.
Sure. I think the other thing to remember too is, like, all right, in the 5th round, often you can get guards, and maybe that would have been the other thing that we should have said out loud and considered is, like, okay, if we don't get this guy now, can we get a guard later that we still like, maybe not as much, but can we get that later versus Thomas, who's a little more unique of a guy at that point at 55?
Yeah, and again, like, I think they're. So I will say Jonah is a special physical specimen. He's 6'4" and an eighth. He's 324 pounds. He's got 33 and a 7/8 inch arms. He had 29-inch vertical. He ran a 4.96 at that body weight. Like,
Special.
He's a special dude. So, like, if I'm getting the guy that's going to be a cornerstone of my offensive line moving forward, and I do feel that way, and I do think there's less risk associated with offensive linemen. Corner is hard, man. Corner is a hard position to evaluate. It's a hard position to project. I feel like you just get a really solid pick there at 29 or whatever that was. That wasn't 29. That was 55 or whatever it is. I'm okay with it. But now we're kind of in this difficult landscape where if you're okay, if you believe this is looking at Darren Porter, obviously I think a lot of fans are like, you just take Darren Porter here. Like, I don't know if he's ready to start. I think that's the thing I'm coming back to. He's played cornerback for 1 year. It took him a long time to kind of find a home at that spot. So that's the problem I'm having right now with him, because I think there's other guys on this list, like Kobe Bryant from Kansas, for example, who's 118 on this board, is, I think, a better cornerback right now. I think he's very good. And I think this board seems a little bit off to me, because I feel like in the 3rd round, maybe not the first pick of the 3rd round, but the 3rd or 4th round would probably be better value for him. But just to give you like a conversation there. And I think if you go to defensive tackle, there are some really good defensive tackles, I would assume, here also. Yeah. Alfred Collins, Omar Norman Lott. I love Omar Norman Lott. I love that dude. Darius Alexander is a beast. Alfred Collins is a beast. Like, there's 3 absolute units here at defensive tackle. So I'd be comfortable with any one of those 3 guys. I'd be a little on the fence about Darren Porter, partially because I think he's just more developmental than people want to acknowledge. And then the receiver, right? Isn't the receiver?
Ayo Manore's still available.
I'd probably just go there, honestly, based on kind of my gut, Right, and I know that's not the sexiest thing. We're taking 2 offensive players and we need defensive talent, but I think he's the most talented guy on the board right now. And I think he fills a need. He gives you some offensive juice. He gives you some size. And I think about the 3-headed monster now you've kind of built for Jaden Daniels. And this is something I'd say if I'm kind of pitching this to the fan base, I'd say the offense is going to win you games and the defense just has to keep you in them. And right now, with a guard that's going to keep Jaden Daniels upright, that's going to allow us to physically run the football, and a receiver that has true X traits that, again, I like Noah Brown. I think he's a good football player. This guy, to me, has maybe more physical upside, and he's younger. I don't think this is a bad move here. So we're going to just be dominant on offense, and we're going to make sure Jaden Daniels has as many toys and weapons to make sure that his year 2 is going to be successful, playing some more difficult opponents this year.
So we're going to put our heads together, take our final break, come back, make the pick, and then we'll get that last pick in as well that we acquired via trade here on Take Command.